Good morning, everyone. We hope everyone is having a wonderful morning this rainy day, rainy, beautiful day. We are so excited to have all of you with us as we enter into another session for our community conversations with the partnership. I am your host, Lamisha Staten. I'm the Community Outreach Manager at the Partnership for Children of Guilford County. And we are just so grateful that you all continue to join us and welcome us in to your offices or to your homes or to wherever you might be viewing us from. We are just committed to continuing to stand beside you as we all work together and walk together through this COVID-19 pandemic. We can't wait until a time when we're all able to get back together again in person. But for safety reasons and in following the guidelines of our state and federal, local government, we want to make sure that we're as safe as possible. And so right now, virtual is the way that we're able to connect. But we are definitely committed to standing by you and walking with you through this pandemic. Today, I'm so excited to have as our special guest Maria Perez. She is with the Legal Aide of North Carolina, and she's going to talk to us about a wonderful topic of navigating the resources of legal aid. And we know at this time, there are several issues and things that have come up for a lot of families, and legal aid continues to be a wonderful resource right here in our county, in our community, and across the state and abroad. And we felt that it would be a great idea to bring in legal aid to share the resources with our families of what they're able to offer. And you might be surprised at some of the things that they have and some of the additional programs that they have. So we invite you to join in with us today. Feel free to share this video with anyone that you feel could benefit from this conversation today. And we do welcome Maria to Community Conversations with the Partnership, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Lamisha. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to, have you letting us share this platform so that we can talk to the community and really let you guys know how legal aid is here to help in these different circumstances. Again, as Lamisha was mentioning, there's so much kind of going on all at the same time, and folks are just sometimes trying to figure out resources for the first time in their life. And so I have some slides here, and a lot of it's just for reference so that you guys, if you hear something and you're like, oh, what was that again? You can, rewind and watch it over again, the benefit of Facebook. All right, so I'm going to get us started with some of those slides, and let me just pull this up. And Lamisha, I just want to get confirmation from you that this is visible.
Let me see here. Kim, are you seeing it on the Facebook Live end?
I do not see it on the Facebook Live.
Okay.
That is okay, because I can still talk through it and y'all can still scroll back through it. All right. I can share these and we can try to sort through a way of maybe dropping these into the chat or something so that you guys can have access to them later.
We can see it now, Maria. You're good.
Oh, perfect. All right. So this is great. All right. So Legal Aid of North Carolina, as Lamisha was mentioning, we are statewide. For the Guilford County area, we have an office in Greensboro, which does serve all of Guilford County. And so folks sometimes ask us, like, what do we do? What is this? How is this a different type of law firm? Basically, what we do is we're a nonprofit law firm. We offer free legal services for civil legal matters to folks who are low income. And the overall mission for us is to make sure that people have access to justice and to remove legal barriers to economic opportunity. We have about 20 offices in North Carolina, and that'll fluctuate because we have a number of special projects that I'll talk about kind of as we go through the presentation. And again, one of the focuses for us is around equity. And for one of the programs that I work with specifically, which is the Medical Legal Partnership, it's also focused on health equity and making sure that in our goal to provide equal access to justice, we are incorporating that element of making sure that there is fair and just opportunity for health for folks as well. And especially with everything that's going on right now, it's very present in our minds that the work that we are doing is towards that goal, even though, sometimes people think legal doesn't necessarily align. For us, it very much does, because we are trying to make sure that we're removing those barriers to health, things like poverty and discrimination, and the consequences that come from things like that and from experiencing things like that. And especially, again, I know a lot of folks are experiencing some of these things for the first time, either in a long time or in their lives. And we work to try to make sure that we are helping you fight, any of the concerns that you have around lack of access to good jobs with fair pay, quality education, especially for folks that maybe have children with any kind of special education needs, and are maybe having some concerns around their housing. Either they're facing an eviction or they're in an unsafe housing environment, and also helping folks access healthcare. That's actually very important right now, and I'll get into that later as I talk. But between November 1 and December 15 is a really, really important time for folks if they don't currently have healthcare. And for us, the way we look at equity itself, it's both the process of us helping to reduce disparities in health and its determinants, and also kind of the action of eliminating those disparities through the legal outcomes that we help folks attain. And as far as who is eligible for our services, right? So I'll get into kind of like, these are what the legal services are, but who we can help, it's a pretty broad stroke that we try to cast with this. It's typically anybody who's low income. For our purposes, that means that your income is below 125% of the federal poverty level. And then there are exceptions to that. So if you are, for example, facing a situation of domestic violence and you're trying to get a domestic violence protective order, it doesn't matter what your income is. If you are in a situation where you are a battered immigrant seeking a visa assistance, again, income and legal status do not matter. Same for human trafficking. For most of our other types of cases, immigration status does become a factor. You do need to have some form of authorized immigration status for most other legal cases. But again, for things like this, domestic violence or visa assistance, or if you're a victim of human trafficking, we are able to provide assistance regardless of what that immigration status is, and also regardless of what the income is. Now, folks sometimes say, like, what does this look like, right? Sometimes this is the first time you've ever talked to an attorney, the first time you've ever been in a room with the legal system, so to speak. And so there are different levels or doses of service. And we have a helpline that provides kind of that initial screening part. So they screen to see, is the income there, all of the other like basic stuff on the left-hand side, and then to see, okay, what's the legal issue? And then sometimes folks say to us, oh, I just need help filing this application. And depending on what that application is, a lot of times we'll say, you know what, we can't help you with the initial application. Here's some advice and information about how to get that application submitted and what information you need to submit with that application to hopefully make sure that you get approved. And then if for some reason that application is denied, then we'll usually say, okay, come back because you have this window of time to appeal. And that all kind of depends on what the issue might be. For example, I work a lot in public benefits, and a 60-day window is a pretty common kind of deadline for a lot of the benefits that we work with. So we usually say, go and apply. If you are denied, come back within 60 days so that we can help you appeal. That might be a brief service where we just say, okay, we filed the appeal for you, but maybe we can or maybe we can't. And this really comes down to the facts of your case. So it's all very individual of like, we can go with you and represent you, or maybe we can't. And it really is individual of like, we have to look at the case facts for your case to say, this is what we can do and this is, what we can't. Litigation administrative hearings, those will kind of be a little bit more of what you expect. When you hear lawyer, that'll be, going in front, like, filing paperwork and, presenting things before a hearing officer or a judge. Very rarely, especially like in the benefits unit, very rarely are we in that situation where we are, next to a client in front of a judge. That's not really how some areas of law for the civil law that we work, that's not really how it works. A lot of it is us being over the phone with a hearing officer or with a judge and with our client there, especially with how things are right now. But just to kind of give you guys a sense of what to expect if you're ever in this situation, it can really run the gamut from like, we're just giving you basic advice to we are there in the courtroom with you. But it depends on what the issue is. Now, as far as what areas we can help with, again, this is pretty broad and I'm generalizing for some of these. So if you have a specific concern that I don't list, please call our helpline because it may be that I just didn't have a chance to get to it in this presentation. Now, for things like housing, a lot of what we can help with are things like if you're in public or subsidized housing and you are being evicted, or if there's a concern where your voucher is being terminated, things like that, where we can try to see, is there an argument that we can make to try to protect your housing? Similarly, for any private landlord-tenant disputes, right now, I know what a lot of folks are seeing is maybe they're getting an eviction notice, again, maybe for the first time ever. You do have very specifically laid out rights in North Carolina around how an eviction is supposed to take place. And your landlord can't just say, you know, you need to leave today. There's a process that they have to go through. And hopefully we can get some more information to you guys on that later, but just things to keep in mind. Those are kind of the kinds of things that you can call legal aid and say, hey, my landlord is saying this, what should I do? And we can try to work with you to either provide you information or help represent you in the courtroom. Again, for family law, really what we're kind of bound into is helping folks obtain domestic violence protective orders. In Guilford County, we actually partner with the Family Justice Center for this. So usually what that'll look like is if you are, either if you're considering that you might need to get a protective order, or if you're unsure of what a protective order is, or if it's something for you, we'll usually tell you, go to the Family Justice Center. They'll provide you with some of that general information. And then if you need to file a protective order, they will help you with that as well. And then they will refer that to us. And what we do is we handle the part that's in court. So we would, again, we still have to go through a screening. We still have to make sure that a case is meritorious, but our attorneys would go with folks into the courtroom to say, like, this is the argument for why they need a protective order. And we do, I don't know if this is as much something that's come up recently, but if you are in a situation where you are, you're in a non-contested custody situation or divorce situation where both parties are like, this is how we want things to proceed. We just need the paperwork and we don't have the money to hire an attorney, which can be very expensive. We do offer clinics, and those are actually currently being offered virtually. And we basically just walk you through, like, this is the paperwork you're going to need. This is how many copies. This is where you take them, so that you can fill that out yourselves and submit it into the court or the clerk. It's a very straightforward process, but it can be very, very expensive if you have to go through a private attorney, especially if you don't really have the resources for that, and if it's not a contested situation where you're having to fight over any resources or anything like that. I talked a little bit about public benefits. Right now, I think for some of these, we're seeing less concerns just because of the way the policies have changed. So, for example, for food stamps and for Medicaid, there have been a couple of changes around, how long people have to appeal. So, for example, Medicaid right now, folks, for the most part, have about 90 days to file an appeal. For food stamps, folks, for the most part, are receiving a larger or the full amount their household is eligible for, just because of what's going on with the pandemic and everything, that there were some things that were kind of taken into consideration by the state, and these programs were adjusted a little bit. So normally, I think we would be seeing, or we see a rotation of, people get denied or their benefits get reduced. And we'll see some people coming to talk to us about that. And certainly if you're seeing that right now, you should contact us. But I can say right now, at least for some of these, we're not seeing as much. And I think part of that is that there have been some slight policy changes. And if you have questions around that, again, you can always contact Legal Aid or check our website, because we have been posting as those changes are being made.
Maria, I just wanted to, this is really good information that you're sharing with everyone. And this is good to see the areas of law that legal aid is able to assist with when you're talking about housing. You made a good point earlier that we have a lot of families that are experiencing some of these hardships for the very first time as we're moving through COVID. So evictions and things like that. The family area of domestic violence protective orders, any custody issues, even with the public benefits. I really appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes I think we have, we might have someone that says, well, call legal aid, but what can legal aid do for me? These are just wonderful examples of areas where they can get help. So I appreciate you sharing that with our families or anyone that might be watching.
Yes, and I think when in doubt, you can always, call or check the website, because I know, especially if you've never experienced, folks who've never been on public benefits and are on public benefits for the first time and something seems a little bit off, just, call us and we can look into it if you received a notice that just seemed wrong. Because that's something that we can look into and just see, like, were you denied for something that maybe you were actually eligible for?
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes people get a little bit more savvy as they've used a program for a long time, but even then the program is very confusing. These programs are very confusing. I've done this for years and it's still very confusing for me. I still reference all of the different policy manuals, almost every single case, just to make sure. So it's never something to worry about, like, should I know this? Like, it's confusing and it's okay to ask, and this is where the information is available. That's the main thing that I want folks to get from this as well.
Absolutely. And that you're a wonderful resource, just a wonderful resource in the community and spread across the state of North Carolina.
Yeah. So yes, also, if you move anywhere else in North Carolina, our services would essentially, so long as that's still an ongoing issue, we would just shift it from one office to the next, to make sure that you are continuing to receive services. Some other areas where folks may be experiencing concerns for the first time are around things like foreclosures or bankruptcy, or if you're, experiencing car repossessions or really aggressive debt collection practices is something that we see, where you're just getting nonstop calls about some outstanding debt, but you know that you don't have the resources to pay that debt. That's something to contact Legal Aid about, especially with everything that's going on right now. I know folks are facing just a really difficult financial situation. I think that's across the board right now, unfortunately, and just something to keep in mind that there are certain things legally that can be done, that can hopefully help at least ameliorate that, or just make that a little bit better, a little bit easier for you to sleep at night, just knowing that you're not, getting hounded by calls, for example, from a debt collector. One of the things that I also want to highlight for education is, I know that I think most folks, I'm assuming most folks logging in, have children who are in school, who are maybe remote learning for the first time. And that's a really difficult transition for parents. I know I helped family members with this at one point, and it's a difficult thing to try to, do all of the different things and to try to also homeschool a child. But this is additionally difficult if you're working with a child who has any behavioral, diagnosed behavioral issues, or any undiagnosed behavioral issues that you believe, potentially the school could help with, or any special education concerns, where they were maybe already receiving additional in-person services while they were attending school, let's say normally. And then because of COVID, everything was transitioned to virtual. Everything is now remote. And maybe there are some services that they needed. Maybe there are some services that are currently being received that could be improved to help your child. If you just feel like, maybe those that your child is just not receiving the special education services that they need, or that you were told that they would receive, especially if they told you that you'd be receiving certain services and you are not seeing those being offered to your child right now because of what's going on, please contact Legal Aid. We do have an entire project dedicated to advocating for children. And I focused on special education because that's one of the areas where we've seen, if your child had an IEP, and an IEP had something very specific in it, but then everything went remote and that had to change very dramatically. You can advocate for your child. And if you want some help around how to advocate for your child to make sure that they are still receiving appropriate services, so that they are still accessing a free and appropriate public education, like those kinds of things are things that we can try to help with. I'm not sure how much of an issue right now we're seeing with like disciplinary concerns or suspensions, where there are just inappropriate suspensions or inappropriate disciplinary practices. But also, if you're seeing things like that, or if you're concerned about it, just reach out and we can look into it.
That's a wonderful area there, because we do have a lot of parents that I'm sure that are interested in this topic today. And this is good to know that you have a whole division that is dedicated to children's advocacy and advocating for their rights as well. So that's good. This is really good to know.
Yes. And I'll add to that, one of the things, kudos to our Advocates for Children's Service Department. They are very active about publishing kind of know your rights materials. So on our legal aid website, on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page, they have been very active about posting, trainings and information that's really designed to be for parents so that you guys can kind of learn, like, this is what things should look like going forward with COVID. This is what school systems should be doing, at least in the state. Some of them are very like general for the state, but it's still like, this is what things should look like. Is that what things are looking like right now for your child? Or is there something else that needs to be done potentially? We also do a lot of work around employment, and specifically what we've seen most recently is a spike in unemployment benefit denials. I'll just kind of sum it up very quickly. Like, if you are in a situation where you applied for unemployment benefits and you were denied and you feel that that denial was incorrect or inappropriate, you can also call us and we can look into that and see if it was appropriate or inappropriately done. And then if it was an incorrect denial, then we can see if that's something where we can, it all depends on kind of the stages. So this goes back to the levels or doses of service. If we're able to provide representation, or if we can provide just general information about how to proceed. Okay. I mentioned special projects, and I've mentioned specifically Advocates for Children's Services, which is down here in the middle, but we have a lot of special projects. And this also goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where our focus really is on equality and on equity. And so equal access to justice means that we are having to make sure that people have access to our services in a way that is correct and appropriate for them. So for example, for our senior law project, generally as a law firm, we don't offer as much assistance with preparation of wills or advanced directives, but we are aware that especially for folks 60 and over, that is a concern. So we have this special project, which is statewide and just dedicated to that work, to making sure that they are serving the needs of folks that are 60 and over. And they actually have their own dedicated helpline. So it's hopefully a little bit faster. And it's also folks who are picking up the phone who are maybe just a little bit more versed in, these are the concerns that you're most likely going to have in this population versus some of the general concerns that we get in our helpline. We also have, as I was mentioning, for folks who may have experienced, who are immigrants who may have experienced situations of violence, who are seeking visa assistance. We do have a Battered Immigrant Project, and this is also statewide, and it provides assistance to non-citizen victims of trafficking and or domestic violence who are really just seeking some assistance in adjusting immigration status, or maybe already have a pending application and are seeking some assistance in looking into that case. And they also have their own intake line. Again, just trying to make sure that there's not really any wrong door. You can call any of these helplines and try to get in to talk to an intake specialist, but these are specifically designed for these programs. And then I'll kind of keep going through the farm worker unit. Again, this is mostly for providing specific assistance for migrant and seasonal farm workers around housing, employment contracts, immigration cases, and things like that. And then also for Advocates for Children's Services, I've already mentioned them, but they're one of the organizations that represent children in just a variety of different forums to ensure that their rights are being enforced. Now, the consortium does help individuals gain access to affordable, the Navigator Consortium is one of the projects that I'll talk a little bit more in detail about in a moment, because especially for those folks who maybe lost their employment, lost employer-based health insurance, we can try to help you get access to health insurance through the Affordable Care Act Health Insurance Marketplace. And just as a last thing, and I just want to make sure, if you need any assistance with, if you've experienced a natural disaster like a hurricane, if you're in the coast or if you have family in the coast, the Disaster Project can help.
These are all wonderful projects that you have going on. Wow, I learned a lot just listening to you describe these different resources for families. just to ask a quick question, let's say, for example, we have someone that's watching today and they recently lost their job, previously had health insurance. Should they reach out to you all to go ahead and get signed up for ACA coverage?
Yes, absolutely. They should call us, and I'm going to, in one of the slides is included the number that they should call because it is different from our regular helpline number.
Okay.
And they should absolutely call, it's a free appointment. Those appointments are remote for folks that are worried about, having to go into an in-person appointment right now with everything going on. We are very aware of, trying to keep people safe. And that's actually a great segue. So thank you, Lamisha. So the Navigator Consortium is actually made up of 6 different nonprofits led by Legal Aide. So there's 6 different organizations that we all work together to try to get people enrolled in health insurance. As of September in 2019, we are the only Navigator organization in North Carolina. That doesn't mean that we are the only assister. There are a number of assister organizations throughout the state. So if you're working with somebody who's helping you get enrolled in health insurance through the health insurance marketplace, there are a couple of different certifications that are possible, like a CAC, for example. But again, just reiterating this date, November 1 to December 15, that is a hard deadline. If you don't have health insurance and you need health insurance, please call us. If you are, potentially, if you're in a mixed status household and you're not sure if you're eligible, please still call us. We can try to sort through the different, part of the work that we do is sorting through, who's eligible for what. Somebody might be eligible for the marketplace, somebody might be eligible for, in Guilford County for an orange card, or we can try to direct folks to other resources available either in the county or in the state to try to make sure that, whatever health coverage you are eligible for, we try to connect you to that, even if it's not, health insurance through the marketplace. We're not there to sell you insurance. We're really just there to try to make sure we answer your questions about how to get enrolled and making sure that you have access to care, especially right now in the middle of the pandemic. All right, and the numbers here, and I'll just say it aloud, 1-855-733-3711, guys. Call to schedule an appointment.
And we would ask anyone to please share this information with anyone you know in our community that does not have health coverage at this time. We definitely need everybody to stay healthy, especially as we move through this pandemic. We want to make sure, folks have access to medications and they have access to doctors when they need it. So this is a wonderful, wonderful resource. And it's good to know you have here coverage of all 100 counties. So if you have family members on the east part of our state, the western part, central North Carolina, definitely share this information out with your families. This is really good.
Yes. Okay. This is just some additional information about health insurance in North Carolina. I'm not going to read through this point by point, but I did want to make sure it was available to folks if you have any questions. I know that one thing I will point out is folks are sometimes worried about health insurance being really expensive on the marketplace. There is financial assistance available on the marketplace. 9 out of 10 North Carolinians were eligible for financial assistance last year. And the average cost of insurance in North Carolina was $78 for 2020. And that was actually a little bit lower. I think it was like in the 60s for the Greensboro, Guilford County area. But again, that's an average. It is the way that they calculate financial assistance and cost is based on your household income. So please contact a navigator and they can help you sort through what that'll look like for your family and for your situation. Okay. Lastly, I think this slide, the main thing I want as a takeaway from this slide is like these different resources. That's where we've posted all other materials. So when I was talking about, ACS is posting a lot of really great information about education. Our Advocates for Children's Services is posting really great information about education, or the Navigator program is posting really great information about, how to access health insurance or how to use health insurance once you're enrolled. We have, here it's just kind of a library for you to know, like, this is where you can access that information if you need it. It's kind of at all different levels. YouTube is really one central place. If you're looking for like, what's the one place to find some of these videos? YouTube. All right. With that, I'm just going to leave you guys with all of the different ways to get in touch with legal aid. This is our general helpline, 1-866-219-5262. That's if you have any legal concerns. If you need help with health insurance, it's 1-855-733-3711. And then if you're trying to get in touch with one of the special projects that have their own dedicated intake line, those are listed down here.
Maria, this is such wonderful information. I was trying to type in the comments while you were talking, but I wasn't able to get in there. The YouTube link, the 1-855-733-3711
Yes.
in-person expert line for the Navigator coverage or health insurance coverage if anyone needs that. But these are all wonderful, wonderful helplines, and legal aid is such a wonderful resource in our community. We hope that we can post this. We can definitely share this out in our on our Facebook page, so that you can come back to this and definitely pull into any of the resources that you need. Maria, we can't thank you enough for what you, for the team at Legal Aid of North Carolina do, especially our team right here in Guilford County, whoop, whoop, and all of the offices across the state of North Carolina. You guys have been providing wonderful resources and have helped so many families over the years. And I don't think we can say thank you enough to all of the attorneys, to all of the staff that provides this service to the state of North Carolina, to Guilford County. Thank you for the work that you even do with the Family Justice Center and making sure that any domestic violence victims are protected and they know their rights, and that we can help keep them protected. So we appreciate all of the work that you do on behalf of Legal Aid. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Lamisha. And, thank you so much for Partnership for Children for starting this, because I think this is a really great platform for folks to get informed. Folks should definitely continue to, sign in, log in, because this is all really the time to get connected with the community. And this is such a great resource for people to get connected to those resources in the community. So thank you for inviting me as a member of Legal Aid of North Carolina to share this information. And if folks have any questions from me about Legal Aid, here's my email address. Feel free to reach out directly as well.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to make mention of the Fair Housing Helpline. So if we have any viewers that need that resource as well, that is there. So we'll try to get this put into our comments also. And if anyone needs any additional information, you see Maria's contact information there. And, if it just so happens, you want to reach out to us at the partnership and get connected, we know how to get in contact with Maria and can reach out with her as well that way also. So we just appreciate everyone viewing with us today. We hope that you will come right back here next week, and we'll make the announcement about our next community conversations with the partnership today that will be happening next week. And so we appreciate all of you for viewing with us, and we hope that you have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.